What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Bobby Fi here, flying solo. Hopefully Sheets is having a good one out there in the Hamptons. And he did do the update of all of his plays and everything, all of his projections, so all that's good. Rich B says, let's LFG, let's do it, man. Let's get it. So let's talk about this one. This is for a slate this big, I don't remember struggling so much for an SP2 in my life. I think Burns is pretty clearly the number one on DraftKings and on FanDuel, obviously. But I'm mixing in. So the thing is, I like Javier today. The problem I have is he just threw 115 pitches, a season high. Hasn't thrown over 100 in any other game. Will often be limited into the 80s at times with this Houston, the way they use him. So I'm a little concerned about it. That's basically why I'm a little bit, But I'm playing some of him because I don't like anything else that much. Joe Ryan has not been the strikeout pitcher that we think he will be, and I think he definitely will be at some point. But I think there's enough upside for him against against Baltimore. 8th highest strikeout rate. Now it's tough too because if you're going to pitch to contact, that's a stadium right now. It's hot in Minnesota. The wind's carrying out. It looks like a great hitting spot. It is my favorite stack of the day is Minnesota, and I feel like Joe Ryan is definitely borderline a guy I'm using. Same with Lance Lynn. Same with Marco Gonzalez. That one feels really gross, although his K rate does go up against these A's. He's faced them quite a number of times, too. Because Garrett Cole, I'm just concerned about the weather in New York. You could play Cole and Burns and get a nice game stack going of whatever you want, pretty much, if you get the right value to the value pieces right. But I don't know, man. It's tough. It's a tough pitching thing. Other guys I'm considering, no longer, obviously, Chris Bassett. Alex Cobb is another one you could throw into the mix. But it isn't all that exciting from a pitching perspective. So if that game we feel is going to go, and I still think it's up in the air enough to where I'm a little bit less high on Garrett Cole. It's also not a great matchup for Cole, but I'm willing to just go for those two guys at the top if I can get the weather okay, which I don't have yet. So we're figuring that one out. Happy Friday, my man K9. Good to see you. Good to see Rhodey. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that jazz. Appreciate that. You're saying pitcher is strong. I don't feel pitcher is strong tonight. I really don't feel it strong. Somebody's going to have out, a big performance, a big slate, but I don't feel great about any of these guys, to be honest with you. You got Burns Burns I feel really good about. Javier is going to be popular, and I'm just saying he's coming off of throwing a million pitches. They don't always use him like that. It's going to be weird to see what they do in back-to-back outings with him because he's generally in the 85 to 95. They let him go a little deeper some games this year, but just a little bit worrisome. He's on his standard rotation schedule, so not an extra day or anything. So I'm just a little concerned about the pitch count there. Lance Lynn, obviously, we have many reasons to be concerned about him, but I'm still probably going to play some of them. Alex Cobb, same thing. Joe Ryan, same thing. Marco Gonzalez, never the most exciting roster because he is 7,400. So I'm sort of flirting with the idea of playing him over Lance Lynn right now, and I'm not really sure which one I'm going to end up with. I think the one you want to get creative with would be Roansy Contreras. I think that there is enough upside for this kid, and he's got good stuff. Like, you have a Milwaukee team that they hit home runs. They're playing in a non-home run hitters park in Pittsburgh, and although Pittsburgh seems to hit 3 every day. And I think that I think that you can attack them, though, because they do strike out enough. And Contreras could be that low-owned, cheap guy who may be able to get you there. So that might be the creative thing to do, to play him. In terms of stacks, I am all over Minnesota, where I don't think I have a lineup that doesn't have Minnesota players in it. Those of you who are premium members have seen my early builds, and I think that it's pretty similar to what I'm going to launch out there. The other one I like is the Mets. You have a walk-happy pitcher against a team that's patient, leads the league in on-base percentage, or did lead the league in on-base percentage. It may have changed over the last couple of days. And I think that you can get a full stack in of the Mets and feel pretty good about it. Obviously, Alonso, Marte, Nimmo, or maybe you could throw Canna in there if you want to use all your outfield spots. Lindor, Escobar, and Guillorme as cheap options. I think that's an interesting route to go, and I think it'll be low-owned. I do think you want exposure to this game, this Colorado game. I'm going to err on the side of playing Colorado instead of Arizona. That's just the way that I like their stack a little bit better. I like their hitters a little bit better, although the prices of Arizona are tempting to fade. I also think Colorado comes in pretty significantly lower owned than Arizona, so that's my other reason for it. I also am happy to excuse me, have a chance at taking a shot against Merrill Kelly in Coors, and that's just an option that I'm going to probably go with. Mostly, I'm using it as secondary stacks, 3 and 4 man, some 2-man stuff. McMahon probably being my favorite hitter. The thing is, Chris Bryant, going back to an old argument I used to have, it was Chris Bryant was a top 20 player, not even a hitter, top 20 player in baseball, and this was about 2.5 years ago. And it was started one of the biggest Twitter fights that I've ever been in my life. It was thousands of things long. I had to delete. It just was nuts. And people think I was nuts for saying that Chris Bryant wasn't the top 20 player. Well, Chris Bryant has how many at-bats this year? Has he hit a home run? Nope. I don't think he has, unless I missed something yesterday. Chris Bryant is going to, at some point, hit a home run. But this guy has done absolutely nothing. And I yet am still going to play some of him. So I think that McMahon's my favorite, probably followed by Charlie Blackmon, Connor Joe, then Bryant. And then I like Rogers and Grichuk to get a little bit lower owned guys. So that's what I'm probably going to be in terms of my favorites. And Cron is going to be pretty popular. But actually, Cron's price may keep him low enough owned to where he might be the better play there. So you could throw him in there if you want to. On FanDuel, pretty much the same stuff for me. I like Minnesota, I like Colorado, and I like the Mets. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not really getting all that creative with a lot of my stacks today. I don't know if it's not creative. It's just you're going to get some low ownership on these guys for sure. So that's kind of fun. But I don't think you're going to get like it's not like I need to play these guys. I would like to play some of the Yankees if they were going to be if we knew that game was a full go. But I don't even know that I necessarily need to. I think there's plenty of offenses that can get you there that cost a little bit less than that expensive Yankee stack that I would want if I wanted to play them. And I think the Mets are a really good option to play instead. I'm going to take a quick look at Mets ownership. Let's see what we've got here. Come on. Well, I want to see what SaberSim says because they're a lot more accurate than other sites out there. But if you look at other sites out there, you got the Mets, nobody above 10% owned. Most people in the very, very low end of even Alonso. I see Alonso at 2%. I'll take Alonso over Cron today. I have no problem doing that. So I'm happy to do that. There's bad weather in KC. There's bad weather a lot of places. Like I would have played Keller, I would have thought about Keller, but the weather. I would have thought about KC as an interesting stack, but the weather. I would have played some Riley Green as a one-off, but the weather. I just don't need to mess with it because there's other spots I like just as much, if not better, than some of these weird weather spots that we're running into tonight. A very creative stack, or at least getting some bats, would be San Francisco for me. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I'm just throwing it out there. You're also going to get low ownership on Seattle, and I think Seattle is very viable. Maybe I like them more as a mini stack. I like Toro, Winker, and we don't know who's going to – well, we do actually know who's going to play, but we don't have Crawford, obviously, in there. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez is the GOAT. He just hits home runs every day. This guy is freaking awesome. So I wouldn't mind getting some of that. And if the weird ones to me are the Dodgers and Giants. I actually think you can make an argument for Blake Snell, the way he's pitched against the Dodgers in the past, but he has been pretty dreadful. The talent still has a high talent level, hasn't really put up a game we would even want this season yet, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I do think that getting a little bit of exposure to the Dodgers, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, is a pretty good idea against Snell. Just in case he really is kind of broken, even though it's the exact kind of pitcher, as I use an example all the time, it's the exact kind of pitcher you don't usually want the Dodgers against. But the Dodgers, when they get to be like 2 and 3% owned, it's a little different. You start weighing things a little bit differently. All right, I'm going to take a quick look at some umpire information. We've got the extreme pitchers umpire for Javier, so that, maybe a little boost to him. Same with Lorenzen. Takes me a little bit off of what I thought was going to be a nice contrarian Houston stack. I think that's a really good stack that people aren't going on, and I might have to switch out one of my many Minnesota stacks for a Houston stack because I do like them a little bit. Rody's with me on the Mets. Let's go, buddy. I hope so. Arizona might have dropped a little bit. I'm not buying it. I think they end up crazy chalk because of the pricing, and you guys know my strategy. Like, I've won a ton of tournaments in my life, and I don't think I've ever won a tournament stacking against Senzatella. Not to say that you couldn't have had some days where you got there, for sure. But the guy is just good enough at pitching in Colorado. He's only given up 4 home runs in, 13 starts this year? He doesn't give up the long ball. You can kind of run on him. He's got 2 stolen bases, not great running stuff. They keep the ball in play, and he goes out there and he pitches 5 innings, gives up 5, maybe 6, and he just gives up 3 or 4 runs usually. Doesn't get any strikeouts, so nobody ever plays him, of course. So that's why everybody just wants to stack against him. I would rather take my chances against Merrill Kelly, who I think I could see having more of a blow-up game here, believe it or not, than the aforementioned, who did I just talk about? The Senzatella. And I know Merrill Kelly's been much better this year. I am not going to buy that he is as good as he's been, and I think this weather in Colorado is worth playing the hitters against him, even with some ownership attached. But you look at the Minnesota ownership, for example, they're going to be pretty chalky. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But if I go 5-man, I can include Kirilloff or Miranda. Both of those guys should stay fairly low owned. Play one of the two of them. Obviously, you've got Jeffers, who makes sense as a pricing thing on a catcher. You could throw Urshela into the lineups. He's going to be a little bit on the lower owned side. And Arias on DraftKings is going to be lower owned. He won't be low owned on FanDuel, but I think you could use him. And I think even Kepler ends up lower owned, probably in the 10%-ish range, because I just don't know if everybody's going to be able to get to that ownership. Let's see the ownership that we've got at True DFS ownership percentages here. Yeah, you've got the Mets low owned. I've also got over here, and firing on any questions. I'm going to answer everything and get to everything. I'm just going through my stuff first. See, right now, True DFS ownership and SaberSim ownerships both have Minnesota significantly lower owned than Roto Grinders does. And I'll tell you right now, our ownerships and SaberSim are better than theirs for projection ownership. They've been just way more consistent, way more, just not even close. Shout out to RG. I do love the guys. I love Roth. They're all great guys and all that stuff. But I do think that the ownership projections are much, much better with True DFS and with SaberSim than they are. How comfortable am I with Lynn? Like a 4. I would say a 4 with Lynn, maybe a 5. I don't know what let's see. KC stack. I again, weather. So that's my answer to KC stack is I need to get a confirmation of weather for a team that I don't already love. Like I like them. I do like KC a little bit, but I don't love them. They're always a tough team to stack because they stand out. People go, oh, well, they got this player, he's good. And they got this. They don't walk. These guys just don't walk. You've got Vinny Pescar, however you pronounce it, Squantino, batting cleanup at 2.4. So they're like model darlings. They look good from that perspective. They're still not going to be especially owned, and I think that they're viable. I just don't think I mean. The Tigers bullpen, I don't believe it's nearly as good as it's been, but it has been good for what it's worth. It's good hitting weather if the game is a go. I'm just worried about it a little bit, and I don't like it enough to where I'm going to prioritize it over games that I like better. So it's a little bit of an easier decision on these big slates for me when there's any question, and I already like other stacks better. I don't feel like I need to get the exposure to those weird stacks to throw off the scent exactly. Julio Rodriguez is a great player. I'd say great. There's no such thing as a great play as a hitter. There's guys who I love. There's guys who I'm locked in on. But to say a great play as a hitter is almost impossible in baseball. There's just too much variance in the game. Julio Rodriguez is an awesome hitter. Is he the best hitter at his price? No. Is he in a good matchup? Yes. Is it a dream matchup? No. He's a good play. It's not. I mean, he's always a good play though. Like he can really, really hit. I sort of look forward to when Ty France and Mitch Haniger and are back in there. They get to see a full strength Seattle team. I think they're going to be really something to look at going forward because I love this kid and I think he's got a really bright future. Somebody's going to have to explain to me, by the way, what the hell's going on with this trade. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with the Minnesota. They're going to try to do something different, and I kind of admire it. Like they're going with a high level Orlando thing. We're going to play our stretch guy, which is going to be Cat. I just wonder how laterally they're going to keep up with certain teams. I know you've got rim protection and Gobert behind it, but how are you going to do that? Like, that means Cat's going to end up guarding guys like LeBron. Like, how is that going to work? You know what I mean? I just don't know how this is going to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I thought that was a really interesting, sort of a bold move that I could see going horribly wrong or really, really well. It is kind of nice to get with all those guys who need the ball to get Gobert in there who never needs the ball except for lobs and all that stuff. And he'll get plenty of offensive rebounds and all that. I just thought it was an interesting move right there. Bobby Bonilla Day, I love it. K9 Bronco pointed it out. Bobby Bonilla, it's actually higher than that. I believe it's actually 1.135 million. And when he signed the deal, by the way, I guess, my mom actually designed his house, which was a big deal at the time. But he's going to be getting that until 2035. What kind of a deal is? I mean, How do you organize a deal to where you're going to be 60-something years old by the time it's done? That's pretty wild. All right, guys. Anybody else want to drop anything in there? Any questions? Any thoughts? I'm into it. I'm ready for it. And yeah, I've got 5 more minutes before I'm going to go finish building my lineups. And hopefully, we're going to take home some big money. I think the Mets are a good way to do it. I think that sneaky Houston stack, I might get to it, even with Bill Miller as the umpire. I think I might still get to that Houston stack a little bit. But Minnesota and New York are my favorites, with Colorado and a little bit of Arizona to complement them. I know that sounds chalky, but I think you can stack Minnesota many different ways and get a little bit off the chalk, especially, as I said, using Miranda and Kirilloff, making sure you have one of those guys in your lineup, making sure that you're playing a little bit of Urshela, making sure that you're playing Max Kepler, because he's going to be a lower owned version of that. So that's the way I would rank out their stack. But I also, I'm looking at roto grinders and, crazy high ownership on Minnesota, and I'm just not seeing the same thing elsewhere. And I do think they're going to be owned. I do not think they're going to be 30% owned for each of these guys. And I just don't know if I buy it. Now, if these other games go away, any of them, then I take back everything, and then they are going to be that owned. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. It's going to be a tight core. My main stacks will be those Mets, Minnesota, Houston, and maybe one Yankee, and then Colorado mostly as a complementary stack with pieces of Seattle. Pete Alonso or cheap minutes. I'm playing both of them, so I can't answer that question, because literally all of my lineups on DraftKings, I've got one Christian Walker lineup. I've got the rest are Kirilloff, Miranda, and Alonso. So there's no way to answer that question. And also, so explain the question. What are you stacking, if that's what you're trying to figure out? Because I would never come to a decision like, am I playing Miranda or Alonso or Kirilloff? It would never cross my mind to think about that, because it doesn't make any, it's not a strategic, they're 3K difference. It totally depends on who obviously you're playing them with their stacks. So it's going to be really strange. So tell me what you're stacking, and then maybe I can figure it out. Because you're not going to be finding a one-off for these guys. I mean, I would rather play Alonso and not leave 3K on the table. So I don't know how to go through that one. 4-4 with Mets and Twins. Well, if it's 4-4, then you have your answer made up, right? Because Alonso will dictate that 4-4, right? He has to. And to me personally, I rarely, and I'll do it when they're chalky or something like that, or something like. I don't like to stack teams without their best player and their best DFS player by a long shot. And Alonso's not even. There's nobody even close to him. So where I'm stacking the Mets, I'm not doing it without Alonso. That's just me. I don't like stacking without teams' best players, especially when they're monster power hitters in good matchups. I have no interest in the DK Live golf. I personally am staying away from all of that stuff. I will get back into regular golf when, whatever that means now. I don't know. I have no interest in spending my extra time on courses that I haven't seen and all this stuff. And I just think it's terrible for, like, everybody loves it because it's a competitive, and yeah, the PGA sucks and all this stuff like that, whatever. The truth is, when is a sport better when you don't have the best players playing? Tell me that. Like, you want the best players in one place. Every now and then there's a guy who could be a 6 or 7 man in the NBA, or maybe even a potential starter for a bad team that ends up in Europe for more money or something like that. We've seen that before. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. And soccer, people are used to this, but I hate it. I freaking hate it. I don't like not seeing the best players compete against the best players. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm doing here. So I can't get into the live golf thing. I'm okay. Like, I'll probably, the truth is I probably will end up getting into it at some point, but as of right now, I just can't get there, man. I know that's a good question, Hingo. Like, that's true. Like, what is the regular golf now? It's frustrating because I had a really good year at golf. I had a bad month and a half or so this last month and a half, but a really good year. I mean, he nearly won the million twice, or no, one of the times it was on for 250K, but just barely missed winning both of those. Finished in the top 5 of a couple of the 555. Had some really good runs, and now I'm looking at the leaderboard for the John Deere Classic right now, and tell me who you would have been overwhelmingly excited to play in a normal tournament. Obviously, JT Posted is sort of coming on strong. Good for him. But all these guys in the leaderboard, like, I mean, is anybody here in the top 50? I don't think so. I can't find anybody who's probably in the top 60 or 75. Like, that's just wild. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I want to watch golf like that. Soccer is the real crazy one. Just constantly getting traded, and then you've got your play for this team, but you also play for this team, and I don't even understand some of it. I do love soccer as a sport, so I enjoy watching it, but I literally have to talk to all of my my friends who are obsessed with the Premier League about what's going on because I can't keep track of all this stuff. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for me. I'm going to bounce because it seems like the questions are dried up. Appreciate you guys, you all. I hope everybody has a great 4th of July weekend. Really enjoy it. I'm going to try and get in some thoughts and stuff in Discord over the weekend, but some family time in there. So it's going to be a little bit different, but we're going to get some stuff out there. We'll get the projections out. We'll get my information out there. I think Rody will probably drop some of his little nuggets in there. So it should be a good time. And again, thanks for you guys for being a part of True DFS. And let's get them tonight. Somebody take one down, and we want to see some screenshots. Let's go.